so the next thing I'm gonna do is a little bit of finishing. So if you wanna finish the edge of a piece of fabric and have it look kind of decorative, again, you tie a little knot in the end, make a loop, pull the end through, and my needle has a little extra, fold it over. So what I'm gonna do is go in at the edge. I am going to, like a loop stitch, come over the seam, and the first one I'm gonna come through right next to my first stitch. I'm gonna poke through right next to my first stitch. And after that, I'm going to put the needle through that loop. So the loop that's hanging over, I'm gonna put the needle through it. And then I'm gonna go around the back and I'm gonna go forward about 1/4 inch. Okay? And again, just like I did last time, I'm gonna put my needle through this loop before I pull it. Then I'm gonna go forward another, coming through the back again, going forward 1/4 inch. And I'm gonna put the needle through that loop. And I'm gonna do it again. Go through the back to the front, put the needle through the top loop. I'll do it one more time, go through the back to the front. And before I pull it tight, I put the needle through that top loop. And you can start to see that I've made this like little stitch across the top. So you can see it. I'll put it on another piece of fabric. But it finishes the top edge and it goes vertically and horizontally. So that's an edge finish. And one more, let's see, here's another embroidery technique you can use called a chain stitch. So for this one, you're going to thread your needle and you are going to bring the thread all the way down to the bottom, okay? And you're gonna, so it's totally doubled over, and you're gonna tie a knot with the two. So you're gonna tie the 2 strings into a knot at the end, cut your needle. Okay, so first you're just gonna go in from the back and go forward as much as you want. I'll go forward about 1/4 inch. And then kind of like the running stitch, you're going to go forward again, the same amount, so 1/4 inch for me, and pop up so there's that gap between them where the needle comes out. And then you're actually going to backtrack. You're going to go back to before that stitch, and you're going to go between the 2 threads. So it's looping back through the last 2 threads. So this actually uses a lot of threads, so you want to leave extra. And my threads are a little twisty, so it doesn't look perfect. But once you've done that, you've gone back through, then you go all the way forward and you do it again, another 1/4 inch forward past the last time you came through. And then you backtrack to your last stitch and you find the spot between the 2 threads. Push it through. Moody, come here, kitty. So loud. What's your problem? She's not usually this loud. I don't know what's up. I think she's hungry. Tired of being in my little studio with me. Okay, so hopefully, she's messing with the light too, which is super dangerous. Sorry, bud. Okay, so very hard to see here, but you start to make a little chain. It's called a chain stitch. So each time you loop back through, you're doubling. It's a doubled thread, and you're going back through the last 2 threads. I'll do one more, go forward 1/4 inch. She's been playing with my hair. And backtrack and go through the last 2 threads, and you start to make this really thick chain stitch. So this would be if you wanted to do some embroidery, if you were piecing 2 things together but you want the stitch to be visible. The chain stitch can look really nice depending on what, so you would want to use thicker thread for that so that you can actually see the pattern. I have one more little thing I thought I would show you guys, which is super, super, super basic idea of weaving pieces of cloth together. So weaving, of course, you could do with yarn or thicker threads. I weave on weaving looms. We have a bunch of looms at the Star Store, so if you're into it, you can learn to weave while you're at UMass. But basically, you know, if you guys ever did it as kids, it's like over, under, right? Remember the little pot holder things? So I have my 3 blue strips, and the yellow, for the first strip, it's gonna go over it. For the next strip, it's gonna go under it. And so for the third strip, it'll be over it again. So it's over, under, over. The yellow is over, under, over. I'm just gonna super quickly pin these so that they don't move too much, so that we can put the next line in. If you wanted to, you could do a running stitch or a chain stitch through them so that they stay in place, and that could also be kind of decorative. So this is just for me while I'm weaving the rest of the strips so that I have them in place. Okay, so that first set is in place. So if this yellow is over and then it's under and then over, we're gonna start with under first. So it's all about just alternating. So yellow is over, and the next line down it needs to be under, it needs to be over, and then under, okay? And then alternating, so it's under here, it's gonna be over, under, over. So in the same sort of size that we're working with here, you know, we piece together 2 triangles to make a square. And here we wove together 6 strips to make a square. Weaving is nice. It gives a little bit of texture. If you weave something big enough, you wouldn't need to sew it together because it actually, like all our clothing is woven fabric, so weaving can be very strong. But something this size, obviously you would want to tack them down. And that is just sort of a fun idea if you want to add something interesting to your quilt square, aside from just piecing things together or sewing things on. Weaving is a possibility. Doing surface embroidery is a possibility, like the chain stitch. An edge finishing is a really nice touch if you want to finish the edge, because this stitch goes over the top and creates a visual border. And then of course we have, I sort of messed it up, but we have this loop stitch. That's a possibility, and that can become, I don't know, I guess I'm calling it the Frankenstein stitch now, if you want it to look like sutures there. Okay, so that's a couple sewing techniques for you. Wendy is now asleep because she was so loud and sassy for this whole video. And now she's tired. Okay, thanks for watching.